What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Cervantes Podcast. Joining me today to discuss his journey from United States Air Force to law school, what he ultimately wants to practice, and attorneys he looks up to is JD candidate at Rutgers Law School, Howard University graduate with a bachelor's degree in political science and government, and commissioned officer for the United States Air Force, Kevon Elzey. How are you doing today, Kevon?
Doing good, man. It feels good to be here. I'm glad to be on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to join me. Appreciate it. And also, I want to say congratulations on recently winning the Trailblazer of the Year award, awarded by the notable and noteworthy Northeast Black Law Student Association and the National Advocate Defense Award at the 2024-2025 Constance Baker Motley Mock Trial Competition. What was it like winning that? How did that feel?
Thank you, man. I mean, winning both of those awards is great. I think for the first one, Trailblazer of the Year, as much as it's a fantastic award, I think what really was the greatest aspect of it was the actual service piece of it. You know what I mean? I think everything that I try to do is in service for other people. I think that award just was just able to highlight that. But I think the real reward is being able to help people and try to bring in as many, Black people into law school and trying to increase the number of Black people in law school. As for the National Best Defense Advocate, I think that feeling was amazing. Main reason being is because putting in so much work into something and then seeing that actually come to light and actually doing such a great job, not just for myself but with my teammates was a great feeling. And as much as it is an individual award, I couldn't have done it without my teammates and my coaches. So it was a great feeling for both of those.
That's awesome. And both awards, was it I guess you would say, was it solo awards or was it like a team award?
Yes, so both awards are solo in a sense, but like I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, I'm not really big on trying to make things like only about me. I think a lot of awards is like I said, the Trailblazer of the Year, that's a team effort trying to bring in as many Black students into the legal field. And then, for the Best Defense Advocate, I can only be as good because of, my teammates, because of my coaches. So, at the end of the day, although they're individual awards, I think it's a team effort at the end of the day.
I like that. It's like I work in TV production, so it's kind of like a team sport. My
Yeah,
my industry, your industry, that's awesome. That's
absolutely.
awesome. And I want to take it back all the way to the beginning. So, what or who inspired you to want to become a lawyer one day?
Yeah, man, I think it was a few things, but the main thing for me was I grew up watching different type of TV shows. I know we're gonna kind of get into that later, but I watched things like, Law and Order, SVU. I was watching Power, and I was really captivated by the way that people would walk into a courtroom and have this not necessarily control, but this ability to really, you know, facilitate things like the way they speak, the way they're able to capture an audience's attention. And those shows really kind of just like drew me in. But I think the thing that really kind of inspired me overall was during the time when I was growing up. That was around the time we had the Trayvon Martin case, and that was broadcasted all over the country. And watching that and kind of seeing that actually play out and seeing how there's a lot of injustices across the country involving Black folk. I think that was one of the things where I was just like, yeah, I want to be in a career field where I feel like I can be of service to people, specifically who look like me, along with anybody else who just feels as if they don't have the proper representation or proper, legal counsel that can speak on their behalf when things that they're going with. And yeah, I just want to be of service and be of help. And the TV shows did a lot of that and kind of encouraged me a little bit more. And overall, it just kind of pushed me into where I'm at here today.
That's awesome. That's all. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Power too. You know,
Yeah,
those courtroom scenes and Law and Order, of course, is
absolutely.
iconic. And I love that you're really big on service, and that's what ultimately drove you to make the decision to go to law school. That's really awesome. What field of law do you want to practice?
Yeah, man. Like I said, I want to be of service to people. So criminal defense, I always feel as if that's the best way for me to kind of, be of service to people in the community, and also because mock trial and things like that, I always try to lean toward defense. So yeah, that's going to be the main path. But typically, the best way to kind of become the best defender is you have to see how the other side works too. So you will see a lot of really good criminal defense attorneys also go into prosecution. So is it something that I really would want to do? I mean, prosecution is not something I'm really keen to. I'll do it in the sense where I can gain experience and kind of see how a prosecutor might think. So that way, when I become a criminal defense attorney, I can have the, tools necessary to be the best advocate I can be. So yeah, but I'll kind of explain how how that will work when I kind of go into career-wise, because when I'm in the Air Force doing JAG stuff, they kind of force you to do both. So I'll have that experience to, practice a
That
little bit.
that's really cool. That's really cool. And I love that you mentioned how important it is to like represent our community in the and be a voice to the voiceless. And I think that's really important because we'll get to it later, but we definitely need more of us in that space advocating for us. So that's awesome. That's awesome. And speaking of Jackcore, in a photo dump TikTok post that garnered over 1 million views and over 200,000 likes, you shared your journey all the way from childhood to where you are now in law school. You graduated from Howard University as a first generation college student while also joining the Air Force ROTC program, ultimately getting your tuition paid for. How was that experience for you being a first gen student? And I guess we'll start with that. How was that experience for you being a first gen student?
Yeah, I would say, being first gen anything is just really difficult. You know what I mean? You're kind of new to everything. And I think being on Howard's campus, you're surrounded by people who are either in the same boat as you or, not necessarily in the same boat as you, but have this not necessarily like leg up, but they know exactly how they're going to do things and how they're going to get to it. So trying to be privy to that, I'm like, all right, let me see if I can kind of get in on this too. So it was very difficult at first, my freshman year. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew one thing I could do and kind of keep in control was my grades. So I focused on that. But when it came to kind of figuring out how to get to law school, that was really intimidating because, like I said, nobody in my family is an attorney. Nobody is familiar with LSAT, the law school application cycle. So I was really just like, out there just trying to figure it all out. So it was intimidating at first, but I think once I joined things on campus like ROTC, which kind of led me to where I'm at in the Air Force right now, it really created that environment where I found somebody who ended up being like, my mentor, but he's now like a brother to me because he brought me, through this whole process of getting to law school and how to get into the JAG Corps through the program that I got into. And, it just made things so much more simple. So as intimidating as it was, being first generation on Howard's campus, I'm really thankful and really, appreciative of what Howard has given me the tools specifically when it comes to, the professors, the ROTC as a whole, and then, connecting me with the mentor that I have now that has gotten me or helped me get to where I'm at right now today.
So cool. That's so cool because, you know, majoring in law and going to law school, that's not easy. But then also coupling that with ROTC is also not easy. I know some people who did both, and it's like you go to school and then it's like you I don't want to say practice, but you have like responsibilities to do after school with ROTC. So I guess what tips do you have for high school and college students as far as time management and juggling many different responsibilities?
Right. The biggest thing, time management, is to have a calendar. I know it sounds cliche, but have a calendar. I would say have one online, like, a digital one, whether it be through Google Sheets or Google anything, right? Google Calendar works great, is what I use as well. But also write it out. I think there's nothing wrong with doing things more than once through online and then doing it through paper. And then also, I think, to add on to that time management is to like, have a do not disturb setting on your phone, which at times where like, schedule the days where you're going to have it blocked off and say, I don't want to receive any notifications. I know I was really big on that during undergrad. I'm still big on that right now. And, when I need my phone to be silent, I need it to be silent. So time management really comes down to, having those calendars, having something written out. So, in order to juggle all those things, you just really got to have good time management. So have all the tools that you need to support you. But to each its own, maybe that might not necessarily work for you. Just find something that can keep you on track, keep you on schedule, and then prioritize what your main goals and priorities are. So whether it be, I don't know, I don't know what year you might be in, whether it be a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. It just comes down to what's the most important thing that you need to do that year, and then rank it 1 to 3 or 1 to 10, like rank it all the way through, and then you'll be able to kind of keep pace at what you really need to accomplish during that semester throughout that entire year.
I love that. I love that. I couldn't say it better myself. I think writing stuff down is so helpful. Because if you just like like I don't know, if you just like try to remember, you're gonna forget, especially when you get to college and you have all these classes. So for me, definitely physical writing it down, have a physical calendar like you said, or a digital one. And I use the notes app too. Like I'll just block out, I'll color coordinate, like it really helps with the time management and just like remembering to do tasks, like having a to-do list. Going back to ROTC, did you also have a dream or goal to be in the military? Or was it more so, I want to do this, I want to be a lawyer, but this is going to help me get to that path, get to that
Yeah,
goal?
yeah, absolutely. I would say the latter portion, right? The funny thing I told myself, it was really funny, is that I told myself, yeah, boo, like during high school, when I was in high school, I would tell my dad, like, I'm never going to join the military. It's going to be a last option because my dad was in the military. And, he always would try to encourage me, like, you should do it. I told him, I'm never going to do this. This is the last option. I always thought that it was just, there's no, opportunity for me in the military. Like, why would I do that to myself? But I think once I learned a little bit more about what the military had to offer when it came to careers, when it came to, opportunities to get scholarships, when it came to, opportunities for me to go to law school, I think it kind of, drew my attention and I kind of just wanted to see like, all right, what is this about? And I think it was even better to just do it at a HBCU, to do it at Howard, specifically ROTC, because I think the program not only, taught you and brought you into this military culture, but it also made sure to keep you grounded in the fact that you were still at HBCU, a historical place that not only has brought in many military leaders and officers, but is also like historic in a sense where you have the Tuskegee Airmen that have come from Howard. So I think like I said, it was something that I didn't think I was going to do, but once I found out that I could join ROTC, um, apply for law school, get into law school, and then go to law school as I'm doing right now. And then upon graduation and passing the bar exam, come back to the military as a JAG or AKA military lawyer. I kind of was just like, yeah, I'm sold. And I figured it would be a great opportunity and I'm thankful for it. And I think it's a great experience overall to do ROTC. I learned a lot from it and I am grateful for it in its entirety.
That's awesome. Are you still in the military, if that makes sense, while also pursuing a law degree?
Yeah, so I'm still in the military right now, so we call it inactive ready reserve. So the program that I applied for, it's called the JAG Corps Educational Delay, specific to the Air Force. It was pretty much a program where I applied for it right before graduation and commissioning. I found out that I got it, and then pretty much they let me go to a law school of my choice. I fulfilled all the requirements. I'm still on inactive ready reserve, so I don't necessarily have to do anything aside from my yearly PT exam or physical exam, which is like a fitness test, along with a few other like, administrative things. But other than that, I'm just a law student. And then once it's time for me to get closer to graduation, in my last year of law school, that's when we'll do like, one more out processing application where I'm pretty much just going to a commander one more time and going like, all right, he's asking questions. He or she may ask questions about what I learned, what do I think I can bring into the JAG Corps? It's pretty much just like a two-step process. Been getting applying when I'm doing it in my senior year of undergrad, and then doing it again my last year of law school. So that was pretty much how the process works. But yes, I'm still in the Air Force, just not active duty technically, just inactive ready reserve.
Is there a world where you could do both? Like you could be a lawyer, but also um be in the Air Force, I guess part time?
Yes, so absolutely. There's a lot of it's just the pretty much what most people know it as is like the reserves. So there's a lot of attorneys who might, I don't know, there might be an attorney who practices at a big law firm in New York, but is also a JAG on reserve status, right? So they'll only do one weekend a month and then 2 weeks out of the year. And it's a great opportunity because you get to do both. You get to do the civilian side, and you also get to do the military side. But, if you're not doing both of those things, like if you're not doing the military part-time and you're doing it full-time, then you're just on active duty status. So for me, when I'm done with law school, when I take the bar, I'll be going on that full-time active duty status. If I do decide to switch after 4 years, I can, but that'll just come down to how I'm feeling. If I feel like I should do it, if I shouldn't, like it just comes down to where I'm at in my career.
In that same TikTok photo dump post, you also said that you got a JAG Corps slot through Air Force ROTC educational delay and later became commissioned as a second lieutenant in the US Air Force. Can you explain to our listeners how you got into it?
Yeah, so pretty much the way it works is I know I kind of alluded to it earlier, but there's this application that comes out in I would say the June, no, not the junior year, the senior year of when you're a cadet in Air Force ROTC, right? So you're more than likely about to commission very soon. You've done all the processes. You're really close to that finish line. But right before you get and cross that finish line, you apply for this thing called the educational delay. And this program pretty much delays your active duty service so that you can go to law school. Typically, after you graduate and commission, you are then going into a specific job. So, say, some of my friends might be going into, they might become, I don't know, logistic readiness officers, or they might become finance officers, or they might become intelligence officers. Those are their specific career fields that pretty much the Air Force will then put you in after graduating and commissioning. But if you want to go to law school and you want to become a JAG instead, and you're an ROTC cadet in undergrad, then you apply for that program. It's a very competitive program. It's very extensive when it comes to application. Send in a lot of resumes, send in a motivation statement, um, a photo from head to toe in your dress uniform. It's a lot. Your resume, it's a whole thing.
It's almost like college,
Yeah,
getting
it's
into college.
Yeah, it's almost like college, and I would say it's like I would say it was like my second application because I sent my law school application first, and it was basically I did the same thing, but this time was specific to educational delay. Submitted that. I think there was a couple hundred cadets across the country that applied for it, and then only four of us get it, or only four of us got it that year. And yeah,
Wow.
I found out about getting that slot first, and then I found out about law school after, which one I was going to. And then I commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force in May. And yeah, that's pretty much how the whole thing works. It's a very long, drawn out process, but it was worth it in the end. And also part of that educational delay, you have to do an interview. So yeah, the interview was a little bit intimidating because you're going into an interview with um not necessarily commander, but lieutenant colonel who's a staff judge advocate, and they're asking you questions. But so long as you just tell them your why and why you want to do it, it wasn't a bad interview.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yes. How would you say ROTC changed you or the Air Force changed you?
I would say it changed me in a lot of ways. I think one of the things that I learned in ROTC that I always like, kind of pass along to everybody and always say and repeat is that everyone can be a leader and leadership is great, but followership is just as important. So I think people always think that being a follower is a horrible thing and nobody should ever do it. But being a follower in a sense where you're a leader, but times where you have to take a step back and let someone else lead, that is an important skill that I think everyone should have, right? You can have a team of I don't know, like four or five, right? And this doesn't just apply to attorneys, but it applies to everything in every field, right? Everyone in that group is a leader in their own right. But if you have just five leaders doing the same thing, you're going to be, clashing heads. You have to understand that somebody is going to take lead on something or has an idea, and then you're just going to have to follow, but also support them in the best way you can. And I think that was one of the things that really changed me because, when we would go to that summer, we call it field training. That's when you're being evaluated. It's super intense. It's like almost like equivalent to boot camp. You're with people that you've never met before. You're put into a flight, and there's 20 of y'all, and y'all are all leaders, but you have to understand you're going to be put in a scenario where you got to listen to somebody else, and then also make sure that you're supporting them the best way you can. So I think that's how it really did change, not only, me as a person, but my leadership style, because now I'm understanding if I'm a good follower as well, you can be just, an even better leader. So I think that was one of the things that really changed me in that sense. And then overall, I think ROTC just taught me a lot about like, brotherhood and sisterhood among fellow airmen. It's just something that, when you go through something together at the field train or when you go through something together when it comes to learning curves in ROTC, it's a bonding experience. And I think every person that I've ever met and any person that I've ever interacted with in ROTC, I'm still close with to this day. So I would say it's been great and it's changed me, in a good way for the most part.
That's amazing. Those friends that you made are lifelong. They'll probably go to your wedding, and that's incredible. And I think also too, that leadership thing, it's like knowing when to take a step back, learning how to listen, and you can take what you learn in ROTC and apply that to your job, like you said, being a parent, being an older sibling, like it's so transferable, the skills that you learn. You're now in your second year of law school. How has it been for you so far? How has it changed you or made you grow? And what made Rutgers Law School stand out to you the most?
Yeah, I would say it's changed me a lot. I think it's challenged me, just like I said, challenge is great and makes you grow as a person. But law school, I think, out of anything that I've done, whether it be ROTC, whether it be first generation, it was challenging. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing coming in, and I struggled my first year a little bit. But I think coming into my second year, I learned what I was really good at and what I was meant to do, and that was being in the courtroom, right? Being among people, being able to speak to them, being able to articulate myself and tell a story of a case. It's a little bit different from your first year when you're just writing exams and trying to get the best grade out of a curved grading scale. But I think I learned that me being in a courtroom is where I learned best. Applying those actual things that I learned my first year into a practical environment made everything make sense. And yeah, I'm super thankful for Rutgers. I think what drew me to them really was the fact that Rutgers is really big on public interest being like you're serving your community. And, that's something that I've always wanted to do. And I think because they are so focused on there, so centered around it, they have so many faculty who are coming from that background, right? So our professors that teach criminal law or teach criminal procedure, things of that nature, majority, if not all of them, were former public defenders, former attorneys that worked for the ACLU, people who were really doing great things in the community. And this isn't to knock anyone that does prosecution, but they're people who have had these experiences that now I can learn from, right? And it's just great to see that. And even the very few people who are coming from prosecution, those are people who are trying to find ways to reform the criminal justice system, right? So I think Rutgers as a whole has done a great job, really, you know, not only putting interest at the forefront, but also teaching its students how to really use the law in a public interest setting. And it's been great. And I think I couldn't be more thankful for the university that I'm at when it comes to law school.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I could relate. Like I think I majored in TV production. I work at ABC now. And in school, I went to Hofstra in Long Island. And in school, it's like you're studying and it's like, I don't really get it with the textbook. But then when I'm in the studio, I'm in the control room, I'm hands-on. Wow, I get how this comes to this and what the producer's asking for in the direct. So I could imagine it's the same for you, where it's like you're studying and it's like, okay, this is one thing, but then when you're in that courtroom or you're actually having to I don't want to say the wrong terminology, but I guess when you're in that courtroom and you're doing the hands-on experience, you're finally like, oh, it's clicking now, what I learned in class or what I'm trying to study at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. I love that. Are you from New Jersey or was it a big move to Rutgers?
Yeah, I'm not from Jersey, so I'm originally from out in Chicago. I kind of claim that as home, so it's a little funny whenever somebody asks where I'm from. Because my dad was in the military, we moved around a lot. So
Oh,
originally
okay.
born in Hawaii, but we moved around a lot, and we ended up making our way to Chicago, which was the last stop. And yeah, I always just claim that as home, but I will say it's been a journey, right? Because I started there, made my way all the way to the East Coast to Howard, and then made my way to Rutgers in Camden. And yeah, it's been a journey, but it's been worthwhile. I really do enjoy being out here in the East Coast.
That's really cool. Do you have a favorite city so far? Being in DC, Chicago, New Jersey, do you have a favorite city?
Yeah, I would say DC has been my favorite city, man. I don't know how to explain it, but I really enjoy being in DC. I think it's something that I always wanted to, live in DC. I think one of the biggest things that kind of pushed me toward that, like it's probably the little kid in me. I would always watch Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and that opening scene,
Nice. Yeah,
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 that
yeah.
scene where he would run on the monuments. I don't know what it was, but something told me like I'm gonna go to school out there, and two, I'm gonna go to HBCU, so it's gotta be Howard, right? So during my time there, I would run along the monuments when it be like the sun is rising, and just kind of being in that environment, I really loved it, and I think it's one of those cities where I just everything about it really just appealed to me, and I could definitely see myself living there, after doing my time in the military. So I'd say DC is my favorite for sure.
DC is so cool. Like I went to the I want to go back for the African American Museum. I've visited the Holocaust Museum, but I really want to go back because there's so much history there and it's very black. I didn't know that. So that's really cool. I heard the food's amazing and I regret not doing like a HBCU tour and getting to experience like maybe it would have been really cool to go, but like just to like see the like homecoming would have been really cool because I know PWIs we have homecoming, but it's a different experience at Howard, Morehouse. So that would have how was that? How was homecoming in different community events?
Yeah, like I said, like nothing beats an HBCU homecoming, right? I think the reason why homecoming is such a big thing at HBCUs is because it's that one time of the year when one, you originally are coming from an HBCU, you graduate, and then you're dispersing and doing your job. You're going across the country. That's how it is for every HBCU graduate, right? And you might not necessarily be around many black people, right? And you're working in settings where you're not going to see that many people that look like you. But once a year, you get the opportunity to come back to your university and be among your peers who graduated with you and be among people who all graduated from that same university. And it's that one time when you can just experience that culture once again and just feel good to be around people that look like you. So going back to my homecoming, these past 2 years has been great. I love seeing my friends. I love seeing all the alum come back, and then seeing people who might not necessarily come from HBCUs. It's great to just see people come and visit and experience that HBCU homecoming because it is a great feeling. I would say, like, the past few years, Howard has been lacking just a little bit. It could be better. Criticize it too much because it is my HBCU. I love my HBCU, but at the end of the day, it's great. I think what makes a homecoming is the people. And as much as everybody might try to criticize who's performing at Yard Fest, who's doing this, I think the people at your homecoming and the people you go with can really make it. At the end of the day, you can go to this place, you could see this performer, but at the end of the day, what matters is who you are hanging around with at homecoming. And it really is coming down to like being around your close friends that you kind of grew up with during your 4 years at undergrad and just coming back to see them again after so long.
I love that. I love that. I've never been, so I guess it's not too late for me to go because it's not just
Nah, man.
Howard people.
Yeah, absolutely not. Go, you should definitely go. Like, go in 2025, go in 2026. You can go to any one of them. Like, it's a good experience.
That's really cool. And from afar, it just looks like one big cookout, like a family get together. So I
Yeah,
love
yeah. It's 3 to 4 straight days of a cookout. Let's put it that way.
that. Oh, so it's not just one day, it's like a week long
Yeah,
celebration.
almost. Yeah. So basically, the way homecoming works, typically it's centered around whatever weekend the football game is, right? But most people won't necessarily go to the football game, right? So homecoming can start anywhere between, if you're an undergrad, most people say it starts Wednesday night, which is true because you're an undergrad. Most of the classes are starting to slow down. So you start your Wednesday night going out somewhere, right? If you're working, you're an adult and you're coming back, you could either start at Thursday night or you're starting at Friday night, depending on if you can get Friday off. So, most of the events, the main events are going to be Friday, Saturday, and then because it's in DC, it's Howard. Everybody goes to brunch on a Sunday morning. So I would say it ranges between 3 to 4 days, but the main days are the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a multi-day event. So it's a
That's
lot.
so cool. It's not just like one day. And yeah, that's so cool.
It's
That's so
not. But I would say, although there are some HBCUs that focus in and make it one day, so it is like jam-packed. I think, what is it? Maybe NCAT or Spell House, it's more of like a 1 to 2 day. But I know Howard is like 3 to 4. I don't know if anybody that is from Morehouse or Spelman or NCAT sees this and is going to correct me as soon as I say it. I know.
cool.
No, I haven't been to any of them. I only been to mine. So, yeah, but I hope to go to theirs in the future. We'll see.
Do you ever see yourself starting a law firm one day, or would you rather work for one instead of making your own?
Yeah, yeah. Man, I actually been thinking about that for a minute, like recently, like, starting my own law firm or starting my own practice. And once again, it just comes down to the time and place. If I feel like I have the resources to do that and to start one, I would definitely do it. I wouldn't want to just start one just to say, like, I have my own law firm. Like, it's great and all. But I think if I'm going to start one, I really need to know for a fact, like, am I going to be able to have the resources to help people? Because that's going to be the main goal at the end of the day. It's to provide resources for other people so that I can help them. And like, what's the pricing going to be? What's the fees going to be? Because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be helping people who might not necessarily have the same income as a white collar, like, firm that, they're going to be able to pay you millions of dollars to represent them. right? So it really just comes down to time and place. So, if I have the resources to start my own firm and the time, I would do it. But if I don't, and I feel like I'm just going to start somewhere else and work, I don't know, say if I retire from the military early and I just want to work for a firm and kind of build my own income so that I can then use that to start my own firm, then I'll do that as well.
So I'm assuming like to give you guys that hands-on experience, you accompany lawyers on court cases. Do you have a favorite court case you worked on that was like, wow, like this really touched me. This is for the people. This is for my people. Do you have a favorite homework assignment or I guess I don't want to say field trip, but do you have a favorite case you worked on so far?
Yeah, so me personally, I haven't necessarily had the opportunity to work on a real live case because when you're in your first few years, you're doing mostly mock stuff. So mock trial, of course, is fake. It's not a real client, it's just a fake client. But I would say you don't really get that real world practice until you do an internship. So my internship between my first and second year, I was at the United States Eastern District Court of Pennsylvania. So I was right over there in Philadelphia. And I
Nice.
would say it wasn't a case that I worked on, but it was a case that I witnessed. It was a sentencing case. And I think that case really solidified it for me that I wanted to do criminal defense work because I got to see just how, one, the criminal justice system can work. It can work and help people. And I think, long story short, someone who was, being held, um, in detention for a certain period of time, almost over about 2 years, finally got his, or not necessarily his day in court, but his time for sentencing. And when you get into sentencing, that's when they're going to determine how much time you're actually going to serve, what's the penalty going to be. And the judge that I was interning for, he brought us all in to watch. And, right before he made his decision, he said, I need a brief recess. We all walked back with him. And he kind of just paced back and forth. And he's like, all right, I got my decision. Walked back into that courtroom, and he said, your sentence will be time served. And time served being that he did his 2 years in detention, he's not going to do any more time.
Wow.
Of course, I don't want to get into the details of the
Right.
case.
I know you can't say too, it's kind of like with doctors, like HIPAA.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I don't want to say too much, but I think in that situation, right, you're seeing someone who is a minority, who has experienced how in a sense where systematic racism really has put people at a disadvantage. So when you have a judge who is also a minority, right, who knows that, who understands that, who sees that, and is able to apply that knowledge into his rulings in the law, it's an amazing thing to see because then you realize the criminal justice system, it can work and it can really rehabilitate people because having someone already serve 2 years in detention, what's the point of making them serve more time? And I understand, you have to really evaluate the crime. You have to evaluate it, but you also have to evaluate, what was the person's reasoning behind this crime. Now, I'll just say up front, it wasn't a murder case, right? But when you look at the crime, you got to evaluate it. Like, what is the real rehabilitation going to be if this person ends up in an actual jail cell, right? So I think hearing that philosophy from that judge, it kind of witnessing that, I was just like, yeah, like I want to be someone who could sit side by side with somebody, go in front of a judge. I don't know what type of philosophy they may have, but just do everything I can to make sure that they're going to end up going home that same day. And just seeing his face and being like, looking at his family that was watching him back there, and he's turning around telling him, Mom, I'm coming back home today. That told me right then and there, like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. So that was my favorite main reason being it was like a happy ending where it was like, yeah, this is going to be it in the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you're so right because every case it requires lawyers and everyone involved to really look at it with nuance.
Right.
Luigi Mangione case is very different than, you know, let's say Yolanda Saldivar and the death of Selena. That's very different.
Right.
So, and like, who deserves parole and who doesn't deserve parole. It's like, and yeah, you can't make such blanket statements and like, with certain things. So I think that's really cool. And then you see a little bit of it kind of like when like on a big scale with A$AP Rocky getting off and seeing the excitement and him running to Rihanna and his mom, it's like it really is life or death. I wonder what that feels like to be a lawyer, to be a judge, and be essentially in control of people's livelihood. I wonder I know you're not there yet, but I wonder like what was that like being in the room of that, like what was that like?
I would say like, for me, it felt very like, it felt very hopeful. Like I thought to myself, like, when I get into like, this career field, when I have the opportunity to represent people, I'll know for a fact, like, their life is now in your hands and you're representing someone on probably the worst day of their life. And I know that, like, I not to say that I've experienced exactly what they're feeling in that courtroom, but I know what it feels like when it's the worst day of your life. You don't know, you feel as if you can't really eat that day. You don't want to really talk to anyone. And I think that moment right there, I was just like, I know for a fact when I get in, this is going to be something that I want to be able to do to help people. Now, granted, in that very situation, there are going to be a lot of people who might not agree with this same philosophy. They might not necessarily say that, oh, that's not the criminal justice system working. That's actually the complete opposite, right? And there are going to be differing opinions because at the end of the day, judges have different philosophies. But that's why it's very important to, at the end of the day, when you're advocating for someone, make sure that you always apply the law and give the actual, proof and being able to do everything you can. Because at the end of the day, if you can appeal something, you got to at least try it, and you never know what might happen. So I would say, having that feeling at the end of the day of having someone's life in your hand, I think it's very precious. Like I said, I haven't had that experience. I'm not a bar or licensed attorney anyway. So if I got to put that on the record in the Zoom, like everything I'm saying is not me as a lawyer because I'm not one. I'm not haven't even taken the bar yet. But I will say, being someone who wants to practice law and understands of how precious someone else's life is, especially when it comes to criminal law, it's got to be handled with care. So yeah, it's something that in the future I won't take lightly.
Yeah, for sure. Like you should always put in your 100% with everything that you do in every job. But I feel like lawyers, doctors, surgeons, and maybe like firefighters, it's like they have to put like 110% because it's life or death. It's
Yeah.
literally life or death. I think with me, it's kind of like, I that wasn't edited the right way for TV or like, it's you want to be good, but it's not the end of the world if something isn't broadcast correctly per se. Whereas with you guys, it's like it's literally life or death. So you gotta, if you're in that field, you really have to love it and put your all in it every day. You can't really afford people, we're all human and we all have off days, but you can't really have an off day. It's tough.
No room for error.
Exactly. Exactly. You kind of answered it already, but do you have an attorney that you look up to, perhaps in your family, a former professor, or someone you've looked up to from afar? I know you spoke about your mentor.
Yeah, so like I said, I never had any attorneys in the family, but I have a mentor who came into my life, I think my junior year of undergrad while I was at Howard. Connected with him through, ROTC because he's a current JAG in the Air Force right now. He also graduated from Howard.
Oh,
Back,
nice.
yeah, he graduated back in 2010. And, when we first met through Zoom, like, it was very much like just getting to know each other. But when it came down to it, when it came to, taking the LSAT, when it came to applying for law school, he was there with me every step of the way. And it was just like, having that person there with me, and I always still look up to him to this day because he does a lot of good work as a JAG in the Air Force, and he's still someone who I go to for advice when it comes to anything law school related, or even just military, or just maybe just life in general. So yeah, he's somebody that I look up to, and attorney wise, he's like the person where I'm like, yeah, 10, 20 years down the line, this is the person who I'm gonna reference. Like, who's the person that you think changed your trajectory to get into law school? I would say it was him. But I would say there are two others who really recently became like, the people that I really look up to and I always admire are both of my mock trial coaches, right? And the
Nice.
two of them together, I think, have transformed my ability to kind of get into a courtroom because it's one thing to just do it, but it's one thing to be really good at it, right? And I think what makes it even better is that my coaches, who are both Black women, right? Being able to learn from people who are, from the same community, as in like, same culture, same environment, and then being able to learn from them, but also understand that I'm learning the professional aspect of the law, but then learning from them to how to put my own personality, how to put my own flavor into things, right? Because you might be in a courtroom where you're not going to see people that look like you, but at the end of the day, it's still okay to put your personality into your trial advocacy skills, right? And I think learning from them for the past, what we started back in September 2024. Like I said, I wouldn't be getting awards like Best Defensive Advocate. I wouldn't be doing half of the things I'm doing in the courtroom had I not learned from them. So I would say definitely the attorneys that I really look up to, of course, the one that helped me get into law school, but the two that have really refined my skills as a future litigator, but also just as a person who's going to end up doing things, advocating on someone else's behalf. They've really, helped me get to that point.
I love that. Mentorship is so important, and putting yourself out there. Like I was, before I was always kind of like afraid. When I first started working at ABC, I was kind of afraid to put myself out there to like producers and different talent, because I was like, oh, like they're busy, they or like I expected people to like not have time for me, like this little production assistant coming up. But you'd be surprised, like people do have the time. You make time for the things that you want, and people are a lot nicer than you think sometimes. And you really just gotta, because you don't know what you don't know. I've learned so much outside of school, just working and just having conversations like, what's your advice on this, and how do you feel about the current climate of the industry now, and hearing their experiences, and hearing their advice for me has helped so much. It's like, school is great, but really networking, mentorship, having conversations, putting emailing. I always tell my friends, like, how did you get that opportunity, how'd you get that email, and just ask questions, because you don't know what you don't know. So mentorship is awesome. I love that.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
Exactly, exactly. You kind of mentioned it earlier, but there are so many legal television shows like Suits, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, Pearson, Law and Order, Reasonable Doubt, and so much more. Do you have a favorite? And which show do you think, if any, portray the law most accurately?
Yeah, it's crazy. Out of all the shows you just listed, I think I haven't I only haven't watched one of them because I think I've watched every
Wow, that's awesome.
Scandal right now, so I'm still watching that. I will say, out of all the ones you listed, I mean, a lot of them are exaggerated, of course. But the one that I really enjoy watching, I think, there might be people that disagree with me, there might be people that agree with me. I would say the one that portrays it the most, and not many people know about it, is a show called Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix. It's a really great show. It's about a criminal defense attorney that was working out in LA. I would say it's realistic in a sense where you see the courtroom action, right? Outside of that, like there are some things I'm like, yeah, that probably wouldn't slide. Like I said, I'm not an actual lawyer, I'm still learning, but I'm pretty sure you can't do that, right?
Like kind of like Power.
Yeah, like power, like Davis, I'm sorry, you're not gonna be able to do that and get away with it, right?
Nah.
And for Harvey Specter, you're not doing that and getting away with it. I know for a fact you're not gonna do that, right?
Or the first guy who got away with a lot. I forgot his name.
Yeah,
Jerry?
yeah, I think it was Jerry or something like that. I'm trying to remember because I did watch Suits. It's so far removed, but Lincoln Lawyer, the courtroom aspect, kind of seeing how it works, and I love how they're explaining it to you, right? So Lincoln Lawyer is that one show, right? When he's saying, all right, when they do their opening statements, right? They're now breaking it down through like saying what's the most important thing to do there in opening, right? And I think the best thing, the reason why they're doing that is because there is another character in the show who's attending law school at the same time, right? So I think they do a great job of breaking it down when it comes to the trial advocacy portion and really explaining what a voir dire is when it comes to picking a jury, right? Or when it comes to cross examinations, when it comes to directs, all those. I feel like the show does a good job at it. Maybe I might watch another show and say it does it better. Um, and then I think, what is it? I think How to Get Away with Murder also, it's exaggerated because there's a lot of things you won't do in the courtroom, but I think it does a really good job of explaining theories, right? I think it's really good when you see Annalise Keaton go up in there and say, how do you come up with a defense? And now they're coming up with different theories. And it really is that because even when you're doing mock trial and you get this fake problem, you got to come up with a theory and how you're going to be able to defend the case. So I think How to Get Away with Murder does a great job with that. And every other show has something that's really good at explaining things. Like Suits, as much as it is exaggerated, I think it kind of sheds a little bit of light on what corporate big law might look like for people that want to go into it. Now, I'm not somebody that wants to go into it. There are people who I know are in big law who will say that it's nothing like how it is, but a show does something that's really good on shedding light on different things in the law.
That's really cool. I gotta check it out. A Lincoln Lawyer. Where is that?
Yeah, that's on Netflix, Lincoln Lawyer. So it was originally a movie with Matthew McConaughey, but they turned it into a show on Netflix. So it's a really good show. I enjoy it. I finished it. It's a quick I think there's only what, four seasons, maybe three. It's a quick watch, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I would highly recommend Lincoln Lawyer to anybody that wants to watch it.
I gotta check it out. I gotta check it out. And yeah, I totally agree with How to Get Away with Murder. I loved the classroom scenes
Yeah.
because I'm not in law school, but it felt like I was in law school, and having to having to defend having to defend a case you don't agree with or defend a person you don't agree with. That was kind of tricky for me. Talking to my parents, I was like, wow, like being a lawyer must be tough because, you have your own morals, whether, being Christian, whatever it is. And then it's like, well, I have to defend this person that may have done something really terrible, but that's the world that's the country we live in, that's the world we live in. And how do you do that? And just different and like you said, the theories that they had to debate, like that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So definitely gotta check that out.
Yeah, at the mercy of your client. So that's just how it is. Every lawyer will say that, and it's yeah, it's not about you, it's about them. That's what it is.
Right. Right. And you got to put yourself, it's almost like being an actor in the sense of you have to put yourself in the person's shoes,
Yeah,
you
almost
know?
put them in your shoes, but you also have to know how to step out and be like, all right, I'm not you. I'm your attorney, but I'm representing you because I'm speaking on your behalf.
Right. Like to be honest. Tell me everything that you did. So there's no or there might be, but there's not too many surprises when we get to the trial stage.
The day it's gonna be, the state versus their name. It's not state versus like, my name, like, v Elzey. No, it's gonna be state v their name. So it's like I'm representing you, but it's coming down to like, I'm speaking on your behalf. So
The
it is
client.
daunting.
Right, right. You do a great job of sharing both your professional and personal life on social media. Is it ever difficult balancing both or deciding what to share or what not to share?
I wouldn't say it's not necessarily difficult. I think I have a hard rule on social media, right? I'm very specific on what I want to share. I would say a line that I never cross is I never share information about my family, right? So even though there's a lot of TikToks where it like, some older women want to be like, wait, what does your father look like, right? They want to I resemble my father, I'm not going to post them because it's one, that's their privacy. Unless he tells me specifically, like, yeah, you're good to post that, then yeah, maybe. But because I know the type of people that my parents are, they're not really big on social media. They don't want to be posted on there. And I respect that, right? Same with my little sister. I keep everyone out of my social media. And even with my friends, like I rarely post my friends unless they really want to be on there, but I keep it very minimal and I think I keep my own opinions to myself as well when it comes to certain topics. Main reason being is because I don't know all the information to certain hot topics on TikTok, right? And I don't need to always talk about them. That who cares what I have to say, right? Like, you know what I mean? I
That's a
just
great point.
yeah, like who cares what I think, right? Like it's not gonna matter. And you might like, a lot of people fail to realize is that nobody cares until you say something that's really crazy. Now you got everybody's attention. So now they're gonna be looking at you crazy. And that's not to say that I would say something that's really insane. Like, no. But there is a sense where like, there are certain things that I want people to be known. Like, for example, like I feel like when it comes to things that are basic human rights, right? I'm not necessarily going to do it in a way where I'm going to showcase, obviously, like, oh, this is what I believe in, these are my political views, but you will be able to kind of figure out, right? You'll be able to
Right.
what I believe in, what I think is a basic human right, what I think everyone has the fundamental right to, right? You'll be able to figure that out. And I think that's kind of how I've always done it. And I think when it comes to just videos in general, I just stick to majority of them. I'm not speaking. I don't talk. Like I take whatever sound I think works and I let that do the speaking and talking. If I ever do talk, it's not going to be anything about anything controversial. It's not going to be about anything that's super political. No, it's literally going to be about something that's like relatable, right? Like recently I posted about getting back to my bed, even though I'm in a different state 2, 3 hours away, right? That's funny, it's relatable, but that's how I keep my social media, and I intend to keep it that way. And I also very much limit, like, any other personal information like exactly where I live at, like where in Jersey I live at, all that type of stuff, keep to myself. And I always like, minimize. If I don't even think I cuss at all on social media because I don't believe in doing all that unless I really want to. If I'm really upset,
You're really feeling it that day.
like it's necessary for that moment, then I'll do it. But I also realize at the end of the day, I think the best way to manage social media for me at least is to think of it as if my employer saw this, would I be mad? If my dean saw this, would I be mad? No, because everything, like, it's so funny. People will say, like, have your dean seen your social media? I'm like, yeah. And they have no problem with it because I've not done anything wrong. It's just either funny skits or it's just going to be a video of my face and that's it. It's nothing really crazy.
Or outfits, maybe a vlog,
Yeah, like,
and you do a good job at like connecting on live. Like if people really want to like talk to you and like find out like who you are as a person, they can always join a live. And I think that's a good way to connect to your audience too.
yeah, yeah. Like I just started doing that recently. I did tell myself I was going to try to do it like once a week. I didn't do it last week, so I probably might do it tonight. Uh, which work I have. But yeah, that's something that's also a really great tool to use because, if you want to find out more about me, just do it on a live. Now, granted, somebody can record it and take all that information, but even there, I'm not giving you a lot. Like I'm gonna still give you the answers to your questions, but I'm not gonna just tell you everything. Now know everything about me, right? So it's a great tool as well, and I love using it.
I'm really proud of you, and I'm sure your parents are very proud of you too for breaking barriers and going down a path not many of us in the community take. So I'm really wishing you the best of luck. At the end of every episode, I like to ask my guests a couple of rapid fire questions. You don't have to answer it quickly, I just call them that. But are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, I'm gonna try to answer in rapid fire because I think it's fun to do it that way.
Awesome, awesome. So first question, what makes you laugh the most?
What makes me laugh the most? Stand-up comedy, specifically Cat
Nice.
Williams. I love Cat Williams. I think he's funny, hilarious. I will bust out laughing and start rolling on the floor when I watch him.
Nice. Okay, okay. Yeah, he's the GOAT. He's the
Yeah,
GOAT.
he is.
Three things you're grateful for.
Three things I'm grateful for: my family, my health, and I think. Oh shoot, dang, I can't even think of the third one. It's tough. I would say the third one, just the life that I've been able to achieve from those two things, my family and my health.
I
Yeah.
love that. Love that. What would you tell your younger self?
Well, I tell my younger self, keep going. Keep going.
Nice.
You're gonna fail a lot. It's gonna hurt, and you're gonna think to yourself, man, is it even worthwhile? Just keep going. And I promise you it's gonna end up working out. Or it's gonna end up working out in the end. Or am I switching the words? Hold on. It's
I
gonna
think you
end.
said it right.
I tell you right, yeah. Everything's gonna work out in the end. There we go. Let's put it that way.
I think I would say the same thing for
Yeah.
sure.
hmm
And last one, what would you name this current chapter of your life?
Ooh. Oh,
This one always gets everybody.
yeah. What would I name this current chapter of my life? I would say the last, what is it called? I would say, I know exactly how I want to put it, but I would say the last, yeah, I would call it the last stride before the real work starts. Yeah, I think
Hey,
from the very beginning, I knew what I wanted to do. I'm really close to, becoming that attorney. But once I become, that's when the real work starts. So this is the last stride before the real work starts.
I love that. And right, one more year, right?
Yeah,
And
one more year,
done.
one more year after this.
And then bar exam and then real life starts. That's insane.
Yeah,
That's
man.
insane. Thank you so much, Kevon, for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Where can everyone follow you?
Yeah, so y'all can see this is how even though I use social media, I'd be forgetting what my follower what my actual account name is. Follow me on TikTok. It's at KT23_E. If you want to then follow me at on IG, it's my little first name, but with like, wait, hold up. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight N's. Yvonne, like it's like very long. So yeah, it's basically Kevon. It's like with eight N's, right? But you can follow me there. And yeah, if anyone ever needs advice on anything, whether it be military or law school or just life in general, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And LinkedIn too.
Oh
Awesome.
yeah, see, and I'm a Social medias, yes. My LinkedIn is literally just my first name. There's not many people that have my first name and last name. So if you look up Kevon and then Elzey, you'll find my LinkedIn. Yeah, it'll just say JD candidate at Rutgers Law School, and that'll be me.
Awesome, awesome. Definitely connect with him. And I want to hear from you guys. So if you're listening to this episode right now on a podcast platform, be sure to leave a rating on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you click the notification bell up top so you're notified whenever I upload a new episode. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.
Have a good one, y'all.